I'd like to welcome everybody to the Committee of Council for Wednesday, June the 14th, 2017. I'd like to start off by requesting that all cell phones, mobile, and other electronic devices are turned off or placed in non-audible mode during the meeting. Council members are prohibited from sending text messages, etc., etc. The order of the following agenda sections will rotate with each meeting. For this meeting, the sections will be dealt with in the order outlined below. Corporate Services, Economic Development section, Public Works and Engineering, Community Services section. I'd like to begin with the approval of the agenda. Councillor Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe because Councillor Miles is not here today, we'll have to defer the decision regarding her motion on the media, and I believe there was an in-camera handout. Is it 13.7 or something?
So we'd like to defer that.
So it has to be deferred because Councillor Miles is not here to speak to it.
So
I think she sent a request to the clerk's office yesterday.
So through you, Mr. Chair, the proper motion could be a deferral, but a deferral must be to the September meeting. If it's a referral, it would be referring to council, because after today's meeting, there are no meetings of Committee of Council scheduled till September. So there is the council meeting on June 21st, there's a scheduled council meeting on July 5th, and there's, in all likelihood, a council meeting scheduled for August 9th.
So, Mr. Clerk, if I can, I believe Councillor Miles sent an email to you yesterday indicating that she would not be here today. Did she make a specific request of what she wanted done with the motion?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll have to look at the email, but if a member sends an email, that has no standing before committee. It's the committee that makes the decision on what to do with the matter.
Well, no, I understand that. Yeah. But what was her request? Was it to defer it until, I mean, I'm happy to do what the councillor's request was.
So would you like to refer? I guess the option is there as well for next council meeting, or would you like to defer it until September?
What?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Moore. Councillor Miles' request was to refer the item, including the in-camera report, to next Wednesday's council meeting.
Okay, then I'd like to do that.
Okay, so referred by Councillor Moore. All in favor?
So, Mr. Chair, just before we do that, so we need to be clear here. There's a public session item which is identified on the agenda as 732. There is an added delegation request which is on your consolidated agenda identified as 5.5 from a LOA donor in regard to this matter, and there is the closed session report which is 13.7. So if that's the will of committee, then we are referring all of those three of those items to council next week.
Would you like to refer all of those, Councillor Moore?
Yes, please.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Moore. All in favor? Okay. Councillor Flashy?
Just thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. I see that we have the delegation in the audience. Should we hear the delegation? That way she doesn't have to come back at the next council meeting. We should at least hear the delegation.
I will come back. She'll come back. The motion is she'll come back.
She said she'll come back. Okay, so do we remove that from the referral, and I guess the donor would? She'll come back.
She said she'll come back.
Okay, so this automatically gets moved forward. Okay, that's fine. So is there anything else before we move referral? Okay. Mr. Clerk? Okay, so all in favor of referral? That carries. Councillor Willens.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I noticed that there's a delegation here, I believe, Matthew Redican, and he's not on the agenda, so I would like to have him added on as a delegate, if that's okay.
Mr. Chair, that would be proposed added delegation 5.6 in regard to the Brampton Bombers.
Okay.
So we just need to, do we need 2/3 or we don't need, we just need a...
Matthew Redican. That's how you spell it.
Okay. Okay, so we'll put it all together then. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. In consultation with the Commissioner, I would like to remove item 9.2.1 and refer it back to staff for a report back to our July 5th council meeting, or committee meeting. Is it committee? Council. Thank you.
9.2.
9.2.1.
Councillor Kaleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On staff's request, I'd like to refer the in-camera item 13.6 back to staff for further consideration and a future update at a future meeting, including a possible public session or lunch and learn private meetings, not private, meetings with the councillors prior to it coming back. 13.6.
So, so can I get a mover to?
I'll move it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Kaleshi. All in favor of the approval of the agenda?
As amended.
As amended, that carries. So we next move on to declarations of interest. Does anybody have any declarations to declare under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none. The consent agenda. Does anybody wish to add or remove? Councillor Williams, you're on the board.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I'd like to put 9.2.3 into consent, please.
9.2.3.
9.2.3.
Sorry, 9.2.3?
Yes, please.
Just give me 1 second.
Mr. Chair, that item is a request for a budget amendment on the capital project for neighborhood parks, Paradise Homes, Park Block 232, Register Plan M1949 in Ward 6.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't need to withdraw 6.2.1 from consent to speak to it, but there does need to be a correction in the report for the public record. It is Ward 5 and not Ward 6.
So we'll correct that in the minutes, thanks. Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to remove from consent 9.2.8 regarding shade structures.
9.2.8, so we're on 9.2.3, removing 6.2.1. So 9.2.8, 9.2.3 and 9.2.8. Okay, so we're going to be adding 9.2.3, and we're taking out of consent 9.2.8. And Councilor Medeiros, would you like to move all for the consent agenda? All in favor, as amended? That carries. There's no announcements. Delegations, I'm going to hand it over to Chair Bowman, as we have a delegation from Jagdeep Singh, representative from the Guru Nanak Mission Center.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Delegation 5.1 from Jagdeep Singh, request for sponsorship to the City Hall Conservatory and CH2G to hold an exhibition style presentation. Mr. Singh.
This is it right here. Perfect. Thank you.
Good morning, Committee of Council, Mr. Chair, councillors. Almost all conflicts emerge due to lack of confidence and understanding. With today's advancements, one human being can do what 1,000 human beings could not do a few hundred years ago. In this world of immense capability, raising human consciousness becomes absolutely vital. In an effort to promote multiculturalism and harmony, we plan to hold an exhibition-style presentation that the public can browse through at their convenience. The presentation will be set up using portable displays comprising of foam boards on easels and pull-up banners. The displays will familiarize the audience with South Asians in Brampton, particularly Sikhs, who they are, their history, struggles, identifying common beliefs as Canadians, related social challenges both locally and globally. We plan to have this set up in the City Hall Conservatory for 10 days ending 12th November. The exhibition will be removed for November 11th in recognition of the Remembrance Day. The mandate of this exhibition is to encourage knowledge, understanding, and compassion among various groups. It is an effort to promote harmony by engaging the audience to understand what may at first seem unfamiliar from a cultural, religious, genealogical, and personal dimension. The slogan of this exhibition is, "The highest path is where all are considered equal." This is an attempt to arm everyone with knowledge so we can recognize all as humans first, as equals, and work together in reaching the ultimate goal of justice and enforcement of human rights across the globe. In the last 4 years, this exhibition has been put up 7 times at venues such as the Rotunda at the Metro Hall in Toronto, the Great Hall at Mississauga Civic Center, and in the Rotunda at the Toronto City Hall. We have invited leaders and members of all 3 levels of governments and distinguished academics from various institutions. At the most recent exhibition, presentations were made by Mr. Garnet Jennis, Member of Parliament and Opposition Deputy Critic for Human Rights and Religious Freedoms, who flew in specially from Alberta on behalf of the Leader of the Opposition at that time, Honourable Rona Ambrose. We have Mr. Jagmeet Singh, Deputy Leader for Ontario's New Democratic Party, who is now contesting for the federal NDP leadership. Dr. Richard Mann, Associate Dean, University of Carleton in Ottawa. Dr. Satpal Singh, member of the Executive Council of Religions for Peace, USA, and a professor at the State University of New York. We also had teachers and trustee from Peel District School Board, and then, of course, we had our own Councillor Dillon, who attended as well. An application to hold this exhibition at the Brampton City Hall has been reviewed, and the paperwork is already in place for the dates I mentioned before. I appear before this committee to request financial relief for the charges imposed by the City of Brampton for this effort. Before I leave here, I'd like to share a fable with everyone. Once upon a time, when the earth had never experienced darkness, and mankind only knew the light of the sun. For the first time, the sun was completing its journey and began setting. Light was decreasing and the signs of darkness were beginning to appear. Panic spread amongst the people. "The sun will set and darkness will cover everything. What will happen to us?" they cried. The darkness became arrogant. Wanting to show its might, the darkness set its foot on the earth as the people hid in fear. But it is said that somewhere one little lamp lifted her head and said, "I challenge you, darkness. I will be the light for people, and if nothing else, at least I won't allow you to settle around me. I will establish light for myself." Watching that one lamp, all the other lamps arose, and the world watched in amazement as these lamps stopped the darkness from expanding so that people could see. Today, we are those lamps, and we have to do our part to spread the light. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. We have a couple of people on the board who would like to ask questions of you.
Sure.
Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I can say if the exhibit is anything like your delegation, it's going to be really inspiring, and I can't wait to see it and attend. I was wondering, I think it's typical that we refer this back to staff, and I'm happy to move that referral for a report, but I would like to also know if there's an opportunity. I see this fitting in with Carabrand and that possibility. I would love to see this exhibit at one of the Carabram Pavilions. Thank you. And I don't see Bob Darling here. Oh, I do see Bob Darling here, hiding. Is that something that we could look at? Okay. I'm happy to move that referral. Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Pelletier. Councillor Maderos?
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for the presentation. I think Councillor Pelletier, I'm going to support the referral, and I was going to suggest that. And thank you very much for bringing this opportunity to Brampton. As a member of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, these are the type of initiatives that we want to promote here in the city of Brampton. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Maderos. Chair Dillon?
Thank you so much, Mr. Sings, for coming by. And as you mentioned, I did have an opportunity to come down last summer. It was a very informative event that you put on, display that you put on. I think it gives the people an opportunity to find out a little bit of background of some of the communities that we do have in Brampton. Very diverse community, but sometimes, a lot of the times, we don't know what the history of the struggles of some of those communities are as well. So I think you did an excellent job in displaying that. And as Chair Pelletier moved, it'll go back to, if it gets voted on, gets referred back to staff, and they'll bring a report back as well. So I definitely support the referral as well.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the time.
Yes, sure. Looking forward to that. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor for referral. All in favor? That passes. Thank you very much. I will pass the chair over to Councillor Pelletier for the next delegation.
Thank you very much. Our next delegation is from Thomas Fisher, Vice President, Regional Development, Habitat for Humanity, Greater Toronto Area. A request for surplus land at 1524 Countryside Drive, Brampton. Thomas, you're over there. Thank you. And at this time, Thomas, I'll bring forward report 6.2.7 for committee's attention.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of committee. It's great to be here this morning just to do a little bit of an update and also and ask for more land. But I just, when I was thinking about our delegation today, I was just reflecting back to the years ago when I was standing here and we were talking about Torbram, and so I'm going to talk about that. It's just an 18-house project that it was just merely a dream, and that today, because of you and staff, it has become a reality. So impact to date, just to summarize, 18 homes on Torbram Road has been completed or will be completed at the end of this month. So we're very excited. We'll be announcing shortly the final dedication at that site. 10 homes begun construction on Kennedy Road. And as much as that's not necessarily Brampton, we have a number of Brampton families there, and 13 townhomes will begin construction on McLaughlin, hopefully in the fall. McLaughlin, just by Chris Gibson Rec Center. So here's kind of what Torbram looks like right now. It's virtually finished. Actually, it looks even better than that. But I think one of the highlights that I want to share here is that's 18 families, but more than just 18 families. It's 6 single moms, 51 children under the age of 21, and we're creating a community here. A community that I'm hoping will even emphasize a greater community amongst the apartment buildings that are just across from us, across from that creek, and then the community just beside us. Mayfield West, another great project. I think the important thing here is it's interesting to see that we're starting to do multiple projects at the same time. So while we're finishing Torbram, we're starting another project here at Mayfield West in Caledon, just on Kennedy Road. That's 4 of 10 that we're doing. And then at the same time as we're finishing this one, we hope to be starting McLaughlin in the fall. And so I just see this, as we're moving along and starting to attack the affordable housing issue, it's just great to see some multiple projects that are occurring. Artist rendition of McLaughlin Road. So that's the layout of the site and the front-facing structure that'll be on McLaughlin. Again, another project that, as I look back to even purchasing that piece of land from a developer that wanted to develop it many years ago. Thanks to you, I just know that this would not have occurred or not happened the way it's going to happen. And it's just because we've all come together to make this stuff possible. And so my request and ask of Committee of Council today is Habitat for Humanity GTA would like, again, to thank you, to you and staff, City of Brampton and Committee Council, and ask for their consideration in respect to the sale of surplus land located at 1524 Countryside Drive for a nominal fee to Habitat for Humanity, Greater Toronto Area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thomas. We do have a couple members on the board. Councillor Provieri, is your question on the delegation? Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Thomas, for the presentation. Our procedure is to refer this back to staff for report as normal. But just to comment on the countryside.
Councillor Provieri, we have a report in front of us. I brought forward item 6.2.7-1.
Oh, that's in reference to that report. Okay.
Yeah.
My question or comment is the site on Countryside and Dixie. I'm very familiar with it. The neighboring homes that have been developed are a very high standard design. I don't know if you noticed they had very because of the site has a very high visibility. I would hope that you would match the kind of design that the neighboring homes, and I think I'd like to make that a requirement that that be taken into account, and that the design match the existing neighborhood because of its high visibility to the intersection. Very major intersection. So I like to see I like to move that, Mr. Chairman, that staff work with Thomas to make sure that the designs are very compatible with the existing homes here. Thank you.
And would staff like that in an amendment to the staff report, or can you take that as direction?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think staff recommendation 2, which is in the report, puts it in the hands of committee if they wish to pursue this, to give direction to staff, and that should be in the form of a motion that will be voted on by committee.
Okay. Councillor Provieri?
Yeah, I would support the request with the condition on that site on Countryside and Dixie.
I believe the clerk's office is asking you to write that up, or is the clerk's office writing it up for you?
Well, it's not really. I support the request and that the design be compatible to the existing community, basically.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Thomas, for coming in. In respect to Councillor Provieri's question, I know that the homes on Torbram that we helped, a couple of councillors helped your staff do some work on those. They're actually better than some of the townhomes that are in that area, so you exceeded what's in the area. So I'm glad you came in, and I support your request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Councillor Pelletier. You left one of your impacts off of your list. The very first one on Castle Hill.
Yes, I didn't go back in time. Agreed.
So I think you need to amend your slide.
There you go.
Well, that was the very first one. Councillor was in my area and Councillor Gibson's area, and we were very pleased to help you get started in the city of Brampton. So whenever you come forward, we like to remind you of that. I think you left it off the slide so we could remind you about it again.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Medeiros.
Just regarding Councillor Provieri's request or intention of motion, would that increase the costs of trying to assimilate and build something that's similar to the products that's in the existing area? Is that something that you'd be capable of doing?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we try to do that often, and the reason is because those homes don't want to be seen as a habitat home, and so they need to fit. If you look at Hoskins Square, that those homes were designed specifically to match the design, although they're taller, the slanted roof. In Toronto, we just finished recently doing a project that was an infill, just like a McLaughlin site or anything. The whole thing is we try to match them as much as we can, and we work very much with staff to make them look like they fit in. Okay. So it's very important to us and for the families.
Okay, so through the chair then, in terms of any incurred costs, or you're comfortable with trying to, I guess, reflect the area in which you're building in?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So I don't have, I do have a slide on oops, it's not coming up, but I do have a slide that I have put on on my screen here, and it's basically showing showing a possible site for 8 new affordable townhomes. Actually, Alice, did you want to speak to that, or do you have any other thoughts?
Well, I'm fine. If you're fine, that's fine.
I think the whole thing is we're working with staff. We do try to keep our costs to become so they're affordable, but we work as much as we can to make sure that they fit in.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros. Thank you, Thomas, for coming.
Thank you.
I do have a question for staff. On the 1524 Countryside Drive location, has the previous owners expressed interest to, I believe they have first right of refusal?
That is correct. Through you, Chair, we haven't notified the previous owner as of yet. Depending on Council's direction, we will either, in the time frame, we will notify the previous owner. And if not, if we can't make contact, then we will then seek Council approval to go ahead with the sale without notification to the previous owner.
Okay, so they're currently unaware of
Not at this time, no. Through your Chair.
They are currently unaware?
They are currently unaware.
Okay. What was the property, I guess it was in a larger block of expropriation. What did we expropriate this piece of property for? Do we know?
We just had to expropriate it because it affected through you, Chair. Yeah, it affected the old schoolhouse that was there, so we had to buy out the property through the Expropriations Act.
And do we have a dollar figure on this particular piece of how much we paid for?
We paid $435,000 back in 2009.
2009?
Yes.
Okay. And then we don't have a current, it says in the report that we do not have a current assessment of the property?
No, not for 2017. Not yet.
Councillor Sprovier, did you want back on?
No, that's okay. The staff answered the question. The house was in the way and had to be expropriated.
Okay. Okay, members of committee, you have the item 6.2.7 before you. Do we have an amendment to that item?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the first motion would be to receive the delegation from Habitat for Humanity, and the second motion, moved by Councillor Sprovieri, is to receive the report, which is the first recommendation in the staff report, and the second recommendation would be that staff be requested to report back to committee on the surplus declaration and transfer of lands to Habitat for Humanity at 1524 Countryside Drive, and that the future site design be sympathetic to and reflective of existing development in the area.
All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. I now pass the chair back to Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Palashi. We will move on to Delegation 5.3. It's a delegation from Cliff Benson, Lead Engineering, regarding Brampton Mastermind. Now, before we get to the actual delegation, I'd like to bring item 8.1.1 forward. That's a presentation by Jen Vivian. Jen, you there? And then we will hear from the delegation, and then at that point we will also bring forward report 8.2.3 for consideration. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Good morning, members of council. I'm pleased to be here this morning to share some updates on some exciting programs that we have up and coming, the Entrepreneur Center. The City of Brampton has been delivering the Starter Company program on behalf of the Province of Ontario since 2014. The Starter Company program provided mentoring, training, and grants up to $5,000 to support young entrepreneurs between the ages of 18 and 29 start or grow a business. The current program ended on March 31st of this year and has recently been extended to March 31st, 2019. The updated Starter Company Plus program will expand its focus and allow more entrepreneurs over the age of 18 to utilize the program, while still providing the same training, mentoring, access to business experts, and an opportunity to receive a grant of up to $5,000. I'm excited to announce that the province has committed to $400,000 in grant funding, which will be dispersed over the next 2 years. Summer Company is back for another summer. It's probably a program that you're quite familiar with. We've been running it since 2001 and have seen a great deal of success since the program launched. Close to 200 Brampton students have opened and successfully run their own businesses over the summer, each receiving a grant of $3,000 while receiving training and mentoring from the Entrepreneur Centre. We're excited to announce that the province has committed to $93,000 in grant funding for this summer, and our team looks forward to working with another great group of young entrepreneurs. We're actually in the process of finalizing who those students will be, and we look forward to sharing an announcement with you in the next few weeks. The Brampton Entrepreneur Centre has actually recently launched a new video podcast series called Back Talks, featuring experts and business owners from the community offering advice on key business challenges. Each month will feature a different topic, and the lineup includes things from social media to tax tips. We recently launched a podcast featuring Councillor Bowman on Summer Company. All these videos will be available online through our social channels and can also be seen playing on the big screen in Garden Square. Entrepreneurs Connect is a marketing series back for its third season, offering informal workshop sessions where speakers and entrepreneurs come to connect and discuss business challenges. As I mentioned, this year's focus is on marketing, and we've actually moved Entrepreneurs Connect to the Daily Times Square. This is a new location for us. It just provides us with a little bit more flexibility in the event the weather does not cooperate. We have 4 sessions scheduled. July 19th will be on how to build your web presence. July 28th will be on managing your content. August 2nd, marketing insights to boost your business. August 9th, developing the perfect marketing plan. And any entrepreneur or anyone is welcome to attend these sessions, and they're all free of charge. So more information can be available on our website. The Brampton Mastermind is a new initiative launched this February where we bring together passionate and committed entrepreneurs to discuss and overcome their challenges. With me this morning is Cliff Benson of Vesta, one of the entrepreneurs that we've been working with to bring this initiative to life. I'd like to welcome Cliff up to say a few words about the Brampton Mastermind.
Thank you, members of the council. My name is Cliff Benson. I'm the co-founder of Vseta, a tech company out in Toronto, and I'm a proud resident of Brampton. Today I'm here to talk to you about the Brampton Mastermind. Brampton Mastermind was started based out of 2 entrepreneurs that met together at a cafe talking about their challenges and really looking for a mental support with each other. And as I was meeting my fellow entrepreneur and Derek Raphael, we approached Jennifer and Prince at BEC and asked for other fellow members to let us know and if they're looking for something similar. Now in my head I was thinking about a small little cafe, just 6 entrepreneurs sitting around just talking challenges and ways to get around ideas and helping our business, but it ended up being a lot more. It ended up being a huge space with several 40 members and 40 plus members coming together every month to talk about not only the challenges but ideas and ways to grow and network with other entrepreneurs and business owners. I used to work at BlackBerry back in Waterloo, so believe me when I tell you that I've seen the innovation, I've seen what it's like for entrepreneurs to thrive in Waterloo and in Toronto, and that's something that we lack in Brampton. Entrepreneurs in Brampton, as you may know or might not know, are going to either Toronto or they're going to Waterloo to get help on their startup ideas or their business ideas. And Brampton Mastermind was our first initiative to be able to build that entrepreneurial ecosystem here. My vision for Brampton, with Brampton Mastermind, and along with BEC and Jennifer and Prince, was to essentially build that same innovation and lead it at the same level as Toronto and Waterloo. So I ask that you support Brampton Mastermind. I ask that you support Jennifer and BEC because I truly believe the entrepreneurship spirit is really what's going to help us be at the same level as Toronto and Waterloo. It is what's going to attract great talent from Silicon Valley to here, and why not us? At the same time, I really do feel like innovation will happen here if you support it. You have to support not only innovation, but also the entrepreneurs themselves, as well as the resources that are helping to push that. I'm going to close off with a statement and a quick statement from Derek, who is also a member, a representative of Brampton Mastermind. Greetings, Committee of Council members. I hope each of you are doing well. Since moving to Canada from the United States during September of 2015, I have been searching for a community of fellow entrepreneurs to join. I have been able to visit various groups in Kitchener, Toronto, Mississauga, and others, and I felt most at home with my community at Brampton. I felt that trekking to Toronto to meet other entrepreneurs was not cost effective, and there must be another option. From those experiences and others, Cliff and I approached the visionary staff at Brampton Entrepreneurship Center, consisting of Jennifer, Prince, and others, whom supported our idea to create and organize a Brampton-centric entrepreneur community. These conversations led to us meeting at the City Hall once a month since February. This community allows leaders in various disciplines such as marketing, finance, branding, and others to share their expertise with the group, as well as to provide a forum for entrepreneurs to help one another achieve their goals and motivate one another through peer-to-peer mentoring. I'm very proud to be part of the Brampton community and to help support the growth of Brampton Mastermind. As an entrepreneur in the education sector, I look forward to lending my gifts to the benefit of Brampton, the surrounding communities in my province. Thank you for giving me the platform to sing the praises of the excellent team at City of Brampton, who have made our dream a reality. Best regards, Derek Raphael. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. Cliff, stay here a second. I hope we can get that for a Beck minute. That was fantastic. Councillor Pleshy, do you have a question of the delegation? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your delegation. I've always been very supportive of organizations like this to help our young people with their startups and focus on providing them with the tools that they need. A couple comments you made in your delegation. One that all of our young entrepreneurs go to either Waterloo or Toronto. Do you have any stats on that? Do you know how many? You indicated all, and I'm not 100% sure that that's completely accurate, but I was wondering if you did have actual numbers to support.
I don't have actual numbers, but I do have numbers of our members that are attending, and those members have all resonated the fact that traveling to Toronto, mainly Toronto, not a lot of the entrepreneurs travel to Waterloo because it's way beyond an hour almost. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them do have said the same sentiment of traveling to Toronto, paying for parking is quite costly. So my numbers are representative of them, and I'm sure many of them feel the same way.
Sure. Okay. And my next question is of staff, Mr. Chair. I don't see anybody else on the board, so thank you for coming.
Well, we can bring the report forward at this point in time, 8.2.3, and we can talk to the report as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Cliff.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Just to to staff, there's a lot of, you hear more and more of entrepreneur centers, and I'm currently working with Bob Sagan on something very similar, trying to bring it to Brampton. Have we developed or are starting to develop something that we can, not have, all of these different centers, but really a cluster or somewhat of, like a brain where they're all working together? And is that something that we've started looking at?
Yes, so through the chair, thanks for the question, and we are seeing a lot of requests come for this type of startup situation. So we're working closely with Michelle McCollum under the university umbrella, and she's gathering all the information, and we're actually directing all of these sort of groups to her. And as you know, Ryerson does a significant, really good job in the DMZ in Toronto. So she's sort of housing it all, and then we're sort of having the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and just on timelines, and I know Bob Sagan has been keeping you up to date with what we're trying to do, but from the time I started council to up to now, you always hear that we have great things coming, entrepreneur centers and all of these different initiatives. Do we have any timelines on when they're going to be more of a reality and they're all going to start?
So through the chair, a couple of things. One is I could probably ask Michelle to come back as a sort of an overview of that. But as you can see in this report in front of you, the province has committed $400,000 to our center, which is extremely significant. We absorb all the cost to do the operating of it, and then we received another $93,000 plus another $55,000 to manage that from the province. So we have close to $500,000 that we've received from the province. So our center is, since taking over this file, I would say it's our sort of a secret that we are now going to be bringing out more and more. And you see from the gentleman that spoke, it really is extremely important, especially with unemployment rate for young people in the region of Peel at running around 16%. We've also introduced and just will be hiring a workforce development officer that's going to be looking at this as well and tying it back to the Entrepreneur Center. But I would suggest to you that the center is here. It's our center. They're doing tremendous work every day, and then and we'll work closely with any addition that comes in, if it's through the university or an independent. So I think we're a really good situation with Jen and Denise McClure.
Absolutely. The hirings that will be taking place, are they going to be contract or are they full-time positions?
Sorry, the question was the
hirings for the centers.
So
the workforce development officer.
The workforce development officer is a full-time position. It's in our economic development office. There's an additional $55,000 in the summer company that's supplied by the province, which is a contract position to manage the summer company for us. So, but the other position will be a full-time position, working closely with our sector leads and filling in that situation as we understand with that unemployment rate, and it's just not acceptable.
Okay, just a comment to the actual center. If I'm not going to put this in a motion or recommendation, I'm just giving you some of my thoughts that for a long-term strategy to ensure that this is we have the best people in the position, and not so much caring about when their job is finished, that we focus on full-time positions for something like this and not so much contract positions. And on that long-term strategy, I was wondering if you have started thinking about that, if there's going to be a report back. I don't necessarily need to see one coming to committee or council, but by way of some kind of presentation to members that would like to hear it. But I'd like to see, or I know that you guys have the capabilities of developing that long-term strategy, but I would love to be able to just have a look at it.
So through the chair, I think that's a great idea. So maybe in the fall, what we can do is bring back a report that's going to talk about the summer program, how well it went this summer, and then we could tie it all together and just show you all the
the different positions and what they are doing, because there is obviously full-time positions in there, but we can put a structure together for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pelletier. And if I could just ask a question, if I can ask the council for a question. Jen, how many summer company students did we have in the beginning? Do you remember?
We started with 2.
And
in
last year?
2001. Last year we had 31, and the province has committed to the same grant funding for this year. That's
absolutely fantastic. I give you guys all the credit in the world for going after the money that's available, for increasing the numbers from that many to 31 over last year. And as you know, I was a mentor there for 10 years myself, so I know the great work that you guys do. Denise, congratulations, and Bob, keep up the good work in the Entrepreneur Center. Cliff, thank you for coming in and sharing your story with us. That's phenomenal. We appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do I need a motion for each of the items?
Yes.
To receive 8.2.1, Councillor Pelletier, all in favor? To receive the delegation, Councillor Sprovieri, all in favor? Thank you very much. That carries. And finally, the report 8.2.3. Councillor Pelletier, all in favor? That carries as well. Thank you very much. I will now pass the chair back over to Councillor Pelletier.
Me again. Next item is 5.4, delegation from Kimberly Floyd, VP Home and Community Care, and Yvonne Sinia, Director Sub-Region Planning and Integration, Central West Local Health Integration Network, also known as the LIN, Exercise and Falls Prevention Program, successful collaboration with the City of Brampton. At this time, I'll bring forward item 6.2.4 for members. Thank you very much and welcome.
Efficiently use our 5 minutes with you to share a success story that we have between the Central West LIN and the City of Brampton, and it's around our exercise and falls prevention programming. So you already introduced us, so that's Kimberly and I'm Yvonne, and I'm going to right away dive into just a few statistics about Ontario's seniors. We know that the growth is exponential when it comes to Ontario seniors. It's doubling in the next 2 decades. Falls remains the leading cause for injury-related hospitalization in Canada. 20 to 30% of Ontario seniors experience a fall every year. My point with that statistic is that partnering between public service professionals and supporting the seniors right in the community is needed, and working together as opposed to our individual silos is actually working against our community. The other cost that I would want to bring to your attention is the fact that providing home care for seniors in the community costs $42 a day, whereas if they show up in the hospital, it's $842. If they're in the long-term care homes, it's about $125. So even more of a reason why our collaboration has really proven successful for our seniors here in Brampton, and bringing healthcare, the clinical aspect, and recreation and the facilities together, working hand in hand. Bring you to the next slide. So I'm not going to go too much into the LIN's home and community care role. It is about case coordination, system navigation, and that is the role of the home and community care arm. What I want to focus on is really the next half of the slide is the collaboration we have with the city. Staff came together and there was a lot of openness to talk about what are the resources we have on hand, what are our common goals, and let's go about it in a systematic way. So it is a real gradual mutual understanding of each other's operating environments, and it was a win-win for both organizations. A little bit about the program. The LIN was mandated to roll 149 classes across the Central West LIN. 30% of these classes, so about 40 of these classes, we worked along with the City of Brampton to find out how we can actually do this through the facilities. The goal was to support the seniors' ability to stay healthy, stay at home, and also include socialization and improve their well-being. There are some unique factors around the Central West LIN's exercise and falls prevention classes, which we worked through with the City of Brampton. We have a central intake, so they call a 1-800 number, they get assessed, and they get into specialized classes based on their frailty and their geographic location. We are also a LHIN that combined the exercise funding and the falls prevention funding. So they were actually provided separately to the Central West LHIN. We combined them, so we have exercise and falls prevention education in one class. And that's the unique thing about the City of Brampton as well, that you have compared to other locations. And Kimberly will actually speak to also the specialized classes we have. And we have this very simple graph, but I want to actually highlight the continuous improvement we have with our collaboration with the city staff, is that we're always looking at the seniors' satisfaction, their flow. So if they're coming for the healthcare aspect, how are they flowing into the recreation? If they come into the recreation facility, how do they know about these classes? And combining the education as well. I'm going to pass the floor to Kimberly.
Great. So I have the benefit of sharing with you some of the successes of this joint venture that has really been driven from strong leadership from both Parks and Rec staff as well as our teams. Here's a slide that gives you a sense of some of the locations within the City of Brampton facilities where we're running these classes. You can see we're touching about 700 seniors now, and that is growing all the time. This is a small investment of making sure that we have independent programs that really support our seniors and our community, remain independent, and therefore avoid unnecessary healthcare costs. A few highlights about what's happening in each of these locations. There's something unique. As you know, there's a community spirit. There's diversity that occurs in each area of Brampton. And these are some of the highlights about what our success is. So at Brampton Soccer Centre, a very viable, strong, vibrant community where they've taken the independence that they gain out of the exercise classes, and they're now enrolled in a walking program. So they take some of the concepts they learn and they transfer it into their everyday life, and it really creates a social environment as well as a healthcare focus. Chris Gibson Center, we've got a specialized stroke class that's running, and what we've done in collaboration with the City of Brampton team is really analyze where our seniors, where are some of the pressure points in terms of disease conditions or unique features, and we target each of these locations in that way. Those seniors attending that program have graduated into an Aquafit class. So you can see in terms of common goals and vision, we've taken health as the main focus, and it turns into physical activity within day-to-day community spirit. In Greenbrier, we've really reached out to the community where buildings are all around that center, and we're drawing that community right into the City of Brampton facilities. At South Fletcher's, it's been a really interesting social experiment where we watch seniors create that support for each other, where they now have a telephone fan-out tree where they're checking on each other. They're making sure that each other are coming to the classes, and that's been really inspiring to watch. At Flower City, we've got different levels of classes, so it really encourages our seniors to improve their independence and strive to increase activity. And then last but not least, at Terry Miller, again, we have stroke-specific classes as well as our chronic obstructive pulmonary disease interventions that are really supporting things. So there's lots of positive things our seniors are saying. And in closing, really what we want to share with you are the benefits of the program that we see. So we've stretched healthcare and community dollars far in terms of supporting this program. We've increased accessibility across the City of Brampton by bringing care closer to home. We're connecting seniors, so if we see something they need, we're being proactive in supporting them and connecting with services or information right away. And as I said, the mutual support of our objectives. So in closing, it's really about bringing care closer to home, being forward-thinking, and promoting seniors to age in place and not have a reliance on our healthcare system through a good community focus.
Thank you very much. Councillor Willens, do you have a question on the delegation?
Yeah.
You have the floor.
Not really a question, I guess more of a comment. It's thank you very much for coming in. Just from this presentation, it looks like our work for our new age-friendly committee is going to be quite easy. And I'd like to thank staff, Derek Boyce especially. This is exactly what we're talking about in that committee, is with the city working together with the other organizations to make it better as people can stay at home and know that they can go somewhere and not necessarily be hospitalized. So this is great work. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Willens. Councillor Sprovieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, ladies, for the presentation. I am familiar with the Soccer Center program, and it's an excellent location because of the soccer fields and great for walking. So I know that a lot of the people who attend there are very happy that the program is available. I'd like to ask you, in the east side of Brampton, there's a lot of big population of seniors that would love to have a similar program that would be accessible to them. And the Gore Meadows probably would be just an ideal location. It has a gymnasium, and also the main corridor is, once it's the second phase finished, it's going to be a quarter-mile long. So to be just, even that itself would be great for a walking program, walking from one end to the other and back. So I'd like to ask if you can look at that location to expand your program. I'm sure the seniors there would really appreciate something in that location to serve that community.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
you. Councillor Sprovier, you move receipt of the delegation?
Certainly.
All in favor? That carries. Councillor Willens, you move the report, item 6.2.4. All in favor? That carries. Next, we have item 5.6, Matthew Redican, Vice President, Brampton Bombers, Junior B Hockey Club, to come and do a delegation. There's no staff report on this. Matthew, welcome. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'll try to keep it within my 5 minutes. Mr. Chairman, councillors, and fellow Bramptonians, my name is Matthew Redican, as mentioned, Vice President of the Brampton Bombers Junior B Hockey Club, a non-profit hockey club here in Brampton to give Brampton kids, among others aspiring to play at higher levels of hockey, a place to play locally. Until recently, our team was based at Victoria Park Arena, where we had a dedicated dressing room and we're all set up. As a junior hockey club, we have several practices a week and on average, one home game. We have a lot of equipment and at this level, we need to be able to provide the players a home in the rink, as all other teams in our league do. The dressing room was accessible to us after hours, so we were able to return our equipment after late road games as well. When Victoria Park Arena was closed due to fire, we were displaced. Through a lot of hard work by our president and the GM of Brampton Hockey, we got all our games and practices, albeit not at ideal times, at Earnscliffe Arena for the following season, which was this past season. We didn't have a dedicated dressing room, though, nor 24-hour access to the storage room that we were allocated. So what happened was, after the road games at night, our players had to take their gear home, and our equipment manager had to take all the equipment home and bring it back to the arena the next day. For a season, it was manageable. It was something that got us through the season, but it's not a sustainable solution for a junior hockey team. Our president, David Arsenault, is also president of the Orangeville Junior A Flyers. In the past couple of years, he's been looking at the possibility of consolidating the two teams into one city, his preference being here in Brampton. He's had extensive discussions with various city staff, but in the end feels the city of Brampton has not been willing and or able, not sure which, to help us. No one could agree to modify a facility to meet the needs of even one junior hockey team, effectively replacing the now idle Victoria Park Arena. So we cannot even consider bringing our other team, which currently in Orangeville has a dedicated dressing room and proper facility. With that, our president is now starting to consider moving the Junior B team to Orangeville, once again leaving Brampton without a place for local kids to play in town after their midget year. As vice president of this nonprofit team, and which is my volunteer work, I don't want to see that happen. The city of Brampton needs to show it cares about Brampton kids. Last year, 12 members of our roster were Bramptonians, were kids right out of Brampton hockey. This year, some of them are actually moving up to Junior A, but they'll have to play in and represent another city. If the Bombers move away, kids will have to leave Brampton even sooner to pursue a career or scholarship in hockey. If the Flyers move here, however, kids can stay even longer. The Brampton Bombers spend as much as $50,000 with the city each year for ice time, and further, an estimated $40,000 to $50,000 each year supporting businesses in Brampton, such as Parkinson Coach Lines, which is our bus line for all our road trips, Minuteman Press, Melgore Sports, Oscar's Roadhouse, to name a few. With a suitable facility, we could almost double our spending in Brampton by bringing the Junior A team here as well. Without a suitable facility, however, it is likely the team will move away and spend all this money elsewhere. The estimated cost to the city to modify Earnscliffe to make it a junior hockey arena, about $40,000 tops, maybe $30,000 as a more realistic number. A $30,000 upgrade to keep an organization spending $100K from leaving. It's for this reason that I ask you to support a team that is trying to nurture the talents of local kids. Please agree to invest in a facility upgrade while investing in Brampton kids and the Brampton economy. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Councillor Willens, do you have questions of the delegation?
More of just thanking him for coming in and when I report back, ask him. Thanks for coming in, Matthew. I know there's been a lot of hardship for a number of teams since Victoria Park Fire. We lost our Junior B lacrosse team, lost equipment that was in there. So there's been some displacements from other clubs as well. So I don't know, maybe we can refer this back to staff to come back to the report. I know that you have been working with them. There are some difficulties because the problem we have is we don't want to displace other teams that would be playing there that are, from the minor systems or from other organizations as well. So it's going to be a difficult challenge, but I think if we keep working with Al and the staff and Derek, we can come up with a solution, I think. But thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. I need to, I'd like to try and summarize here some of the things that you were indicating. So is it basically that if the City of Brampton doesn't provide you with a dressing room just for the Junior B team and 24-hour access to that dressing room or storage, that you guys are going to leave and go to Orangeville?
It is being looked at, and it's not being proposed as a threat or anything. It's just a matter of it's an economic reality that we can't function moving our equipment in and out of dressing rooms every game and every practice and so forth. So we have to look at a more viable solution. We're not asking to displace other teams. Our owner is actually an architect by day and has looked at plans for the arena and would, and has considered even an extension on an arena, an addition to an arena,
and
so
is
that
that
no other
particular
teams.
with Earnscliffe?
Yes.
And you indicated that 30 to 40,000 in upgrades. Is that like the public sector 30 to 40,000? Because that could move to 80,000 if the City of Brampton is doing the work.
I'm not sure of the origin of the numbers. Those were provided by our president, who couldn't be here today. Mm-hmm. But I could certainly get back to you with all the basis of those numbers.
Okay. It just the two issues that I don't want them to seem like. I get the feeling that they're very trivial and they're almost they're first world problems that I think that with a little bit of help from staff we may be able to do something about. But we have a Parks and Rec master plan that's coming out. We've identified the need or lack of with facilities, particularly in that area or other areas in the City of Brampton. It comes at kind of the bad time before, we don't want to make any decisions, I don't mean to speak for all of council, but I don't want to make any decisions on recreation centers without looking at our Parks and Rec master plan. That's what, our staff have been working hard at for a long time. So if a referral is being put forward, I would ask that the referral come back after the Parks and Rec master plan is I think presented to us in the fall.
Through the chair, the Parks and Rec master plan will be presented in the next 2 weeks.
In the next 2 weeks. Okay, so that works. As for access to to storage. And I don't know what next season looks like for you guys. I don't even know if you guys or we know what next season looks like in terms of what arena that you're going to be at. But maybe the possibility for storage can be accommodated by way of you guys, coming with us to I don't know, get some kind of lockbox or those big container things that something that we can help you out with 24-hour access to. So I'm not sure what it looks like, but in the referral, I'm sure staff's going to come back with their suggestions. You indicated that $50,000 is spent economically in the city of Brampton by way of your junior B hockey club. And do you have any stats or evidence of those monies being spent?
The president could provide that, yes, absolutely.
Okay, and is that something that they can provide to staff?
Certainly.
Prior to, and I appreciate that. I think those are all my questions as for now. Oh, Councillor Sprovieri is on the board. Councillor Sprovieri, questions of the delegation?
Yes, I do.
All right, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Matthew, for presenting today. You also mentioned the ice rental. How much do you generate to the city?
As much as $50,000 a year.
Just for rental?
Just for the ice rental, yeah.
Plus the additional funds for its... now, most of your players are Brampton kids, would it be?
Roughly half the roster.
And this idea going up to Orangeville, if we can work out some kind of an arrangement, is that really a good solution for you?
It's not ideal. I will tell you, it's not ideal. But but we need to, excuse me, we need to look at moving to at least a facility that is set up for a junior hockey team. So currently, well, we did have one at Victoria Park Arena. As dated as that arena was, it was a great arena for hosting a junior hockey team. We had our dedicated dressing room throughout the season, so our players had their cubbies and their specific locations. We were able to leave the uniforms and everything in the room. We can do that in Orangeville by leveraging the same dressing room as our junior A team if necessary. Obviously, as a Bramptonian, I don't want that to happen because, personally, I'm not going up to Orangeville every week.
Certainly, I understand that. As far as you know, any other hockey arenas in Brampton is already set up to accommodate your needs? Or
I'm not aware of any that actually have that allocation.
So can I ask staff whether staff is aware of any other arena that is fitted to accommodate the needs?
Through the chair, I would recommend that the report or this get referred back to staff. We will provide you a comprehensive review of the current situation and with some recommendations in terms of going forward.
And I really encourage you to, if you have to do something, I would be supportive of doing something to keep the team in here in Brampton, because certainly, I don't believe it's a good idea to lose the team to another town and then displace the kids and all the extra travel time and also the loss of revenue. I think it's a very important factor to keep in mind. And so if we have to spend $30,000 or $40,000 in order to keep the team, I think we have to do whatever we can. So I would encourage that to bring back a good report to us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Sprovieri. Just before I go to Councillor Willens, you had indicated, Matthew, that you're a not-for-profit organization?
Correct.
And that's stated you're a not-for-profit organization?
It is a non-profit organization, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Willens.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just quickly, Al, in that report, maybe you can maybe find a history on how we operated at Memorial with that, because that I think dressing room 1 at Memorial was not a dedicated dressing room, but the junior lacrosse team and the junior A team that used to play there used to have access to a storage area, I believe, because we played hockey there, and we were always, the home team played dressed in that dressing room, but didn't have access into the back where they kept their equipment, so maybe that can be included in the report as well. Okay, thanks.
Good suggestion, Councillor Williams. Memorial would be a great place for you guys, I think. Pretty Ranger. I love Memorial. So, Councillor Fortini.
Chair. Thank you, Alan. I think we met with David Arson. Is it?
David Arson, yes.
And Councillor Bowman. He did come to staff, I think, at one time going back about 4 or 5 months ago, requesting this. Huh?
Yeah, he's, through you, Mr. Chair, I understand that he has put in significant time to try to get the attention of the city to try to help us out.
Staff, no response?
Through the chair, you are correct. We have met with Mr. Arsenault a few times, and staff do continue to do the required due diligence. You know, the situation is very fluid all the time, where we're looking at opportunities, we're looking at how we can consolidate programming at facilities to maximize utilization rates and look at things. So as we've said, I would continue to recommend we come back with a report. We would provide you with all that detail, and we would put some serious recommendations in place for council's consideration.
Thank you.
That's all, Councillor Fortini? Oh, whose telephone's that? Everybody look and point. Just for council's to understand that the Parks and Rec master plan is actually coming back Monday on Monday's planning agenda. Is that right, Councillor Moore? Excellent. Thank you very much for coming. Can I get Councillor Fortini move receipt of the delegation? All in favor. Councillor Willens moved referral. All in favor. That carries. And I'd like to turn the chair back to Councillor Dillon. Thank you, Councillor Dillon.
Thank you very much, Chair Fleshy. So we're going to move on to the corporate services section and the 7.1 staff presentation by Ms. Sinkles in regards to continuous improvement approach by reviewing City of Brampton services. We'll bring forward report 7.2.1, and I believe Mr. Schlang would like to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair, and to the rest of Council. I just wanted to say that the next two reports, 7.2.1, 7.2.2, are just information reports. We wanted to show you how we're starting to work the continuous improvement plan. We did a major restructuring last year. We've seen some major significant benefits from that, but we can't rest on that. We have to continue to provide, service innovation, look at continuous improvement, and that'll be one report. And then the second is, and it's a status report because it's a work in progress, and then we're working on how do we measure that performance to our community, and that's a status report. But we wanted to show you as part of your strat plan what we're moving towards. So, Rhonda?
Good morning, members of council, the Brampton staff team, and the public. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to sharing with you the strategic approach that we are taking to reviewing city services, as well as several positive outcomes that have already been achieved, and also what lies ahead, as Mr. Schlang mentioned. Oops, sorry about that. So setting the stage, it's been clear that city business and service reviews have always been a priority of this council. And under your leadership, last year's corporate restructuring initiated that modernizing of the city operations. And the recent strategic plan pivot identified 6 game changers. So these transformational shifts in our operations have provided us with opportunities to review city services and have reinforced the foundational importance of continuously improving the way that we operate. So looking at this framework, traditional municipal core service reviews are often evaluated by a hired third-party consultant and typically focus on some of the things that you see on the left there, on activities and outputs. Research indicates that the preferred approach for service delivery reviews is to engage staff who are involved in the planning and actual delivery of the services. And that is what the City of Brampton is doing. In fact, we're leapfrogging others by taking a more strategic approach to assess our services for value and outcomes for the community, as you see illustrated there on the left. And I'm pleased to share that it is working. The corporate transformation has really inspired staff to think bigger and collaborate to be more agile and responsive.
The approach illustrated here translates into a rigorous, value-led process by which city departments are challenging themselves to deliver more with the same or fewer resources. They're carefully assessing their services through an outside-in lens, using data and industry-leading practices to identify and seize opportunities to improve service quality, productivity, or capacity, then building that capacity to continue this process on an ongoing basis after the initial review. So to ensure that we're focused on the right priorities, we did take an inventory of the city's core services, which you see listed here. So it ends up being 21 core public-facing services and 11 supporting or internal-facing services that we identified. Now, we do recognize that each of these services does have many programs and activities that are associated with it, and those are included within the reviews. But several of these services have already been reviewed, and we have some positive outcomes and meaningful community impacts that are highlighted for you in Appendix B of the accompanying report. Just want to touch on a few before we get into showcasing one that has just completed. So touching on purchasing, for instance, you heard recently from Commissioner Patari that purchasing is transforming that procurement experience. Already making it easier for vendors to do business with the city through the new e-procurement tool, and working now to streamline and automate internal processes to reduce our cycle times by more than 2 weeks. Where we're going to end up is empowered staff across the organization to increase speed and efficiency when it comes to procurement, increasing our vendor participation and competition, and ultimately vendor accountability in working with us. The second item there, winter maintenance, the team conducted a route and service level rationalization, which we're going to see the benefit of cost avoidance of estimated of up to 5% next winter. There's new performance-based winter maintenance service contracts have been implemented, again starting next winter, and with an estimated cost savings of 9%, a budget estimate over the course of a 7-year contract. And all of this will be supported by a new centralized winter control office, really having a single point of winter maintenance responsibility. The city does continue to migrate customer service to 311, most recently integrating the public works and engineering and animal services calls, emails, and online requests. This has built capacity, enabling the right size for administration within the departments and enabling them to focus on their service delivery. And at the contact center, they're absorbing 5% more calls and 40% more emails without adding additional staff, while providing citizens with effective 24/7 customer service that's consistently tracked, actioned, and reported on for the corporation. So as a sample of the collaborative approach that is being followed, I'm going to invite Director of Recreation, Derek Boyce, to join me. We're pleased to present positive outcomes of the latest service review that we've just completed for the Recreation Division. So again, thinking of the process, it all starts with understanding community needs and our service objective, which in this case is all about community well-being. So recreation is not just about sports and fitness. It's about providing vibrant community hubs, enabling social connections, and promoting healthy and active opportunities for Brampton residents to be proud to live, work, play, and learn here. Very similar to what we heard earlier in the Lynn presentation. So recreation is provided through a portfolio of services that are listed here, and these are further broken down into different areas that operate more than 1,000 different programs on an annual basis. And the city, what's interesting is the city is not obligated or legislated to provide any of these. Most of our services, as you can see, are comparable to traditional municipal service offerings, and others are provided as Brampton-specific offerings at Council's direction. Through the Recreation Division, the city operates 35 different community centers or gathering hubs, and we've purposely called it that because, for instance, Gage Park is one of those. So that is an area where people gather to enjoy recreation and have fun. As you can see, though, recreation is not a for-profit business. Rather, it's operated as a cost, which is offset by revenue recoveries. So in 2016, that ran about 48%, and they're anticipated to increase by 1% this year. So the focus here of this review is really value for the rates that have been invested. Recreation does utilize an innovative hybrid model to deliver services both directly and indirectly. So for indirect, which is shown here in the red, the city facilitates third parties to provide the resources and expertise for 64% of its indoor and 99% of its outdoor programs. This saves the city significant cost rather than delivering it ourselves. And in fact, the city delivers only 36% of its indoor programs and 1% of its outdoor programs directly, which is illustrated there in blue. In terms of delivery, it's delivered by 235 full-time staff and up to 1,950 part-time staff throughout the year at a staff-to-population ratio that's comparable to similar-sized municipalities. This staffing model provides recreation with the maximum flexibility to adjust programs seasonally and to expand or contract them at other times throughout the year in response to community needs. Now I'm going to turn it over to Derek to expand on some of our outcomes and opportunities.
Thank you, Rhonda. So this slide right here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but one of the things that we wanted to just let you know is that recreation in our programs that we offer, so you heard we offer 1,000 programs annually. All our programs aim for 100% direct cost recovery on programs. So when the instructor cost, any materials cost, we have 100% cost recovery target, and we monitor that. We monitor our programs, we monitor the break-even point, we monitor which programs we offer on a seasonal, sessional basis. So there's a lot of rigor that goes into what we're offering. The other thing that we take a look at is what's our program performance, and that's important for us because as we try to meet the community where the community is and serve the needs that are necessary in the community, it's important for us to look at that. So this is a sample of one metric that we take a look at, what's our market penetration. As you can see from this, which probably comes as no surprise to yourselves, in the 0 to 14 year age category, we have very high penetration, and it starts to descend as we go into other markets. Now, this is only registered programs, so the note is we have drop-in programs, we have people who rent our facilities, we have memberships in fitness, swimming, and skating. But in our registered programming, we know that we want to make a concerted effort to increase that penetration rate in the teenage years as well as in the adult and the older adult years. So some of the things that we'll talk about in a couple seconds are what we as a staff have believed can help transform us to help us increase this market penetration. And again, that goes back to serving the community, what the community wants, what they're interested in. So some of those initiatives that we're, in the last 6 months that we're really working on, that we're really proud to talk a little bit about today, I've outlined here. I'm not going to go in depth. Some of these are on the agenda later in the community services section. Working with the region of Peel to increase access to children in need. So we already have an active assist program. We already do inclusion and integration. We have subsidy programs through Jumpstart and Canadian Tire. But we also are continuing to work with the region of Peel to increase that access so that kids with families on Ontario Works or that are below that low income threshold have access to our camps in the summer and are able to experience recreation. A strong personal thing with me is our ability, as Rhonda said, our community centers are gathering hubs. So not everybody comes into a community center to play a sport. Not everybody wants to come in and work out. But they do want to come in and do various activities. So with the presentation earlier on with the Entrepreneurial Center and some of the things we've heard around robotics, we're really going to start focusing on STEM programming, so the science, technology, engineering, math, and bring that into our centers. We have a community that really, I think the demand is there, and so we're working with partners. And that's not us delivering it ourselves. That's working with people who are experts in the area to bring them into our centers and do that. The Boys and Girls Club, we're working, we've had initial discussions and we've got meetings set up this week to discuss how can they provide services within our centers with what they're experts in, and they're experts in really the after-school programming arena, and so we really want to discuss with that. You've heard about the Central West, Lynn, and the Osler. The one thing that I will highlight, it's not only the falls prevention and the exercise, we're also in discussions with them to work around diabetes education and diabetes awareness, and how do we bring that into our centers, because we know that there's a prevalence of that within our community. So how do we have a captive audience in our community centers, so what can we do to be more active there? And so we're working with the Central West Lynn and William Osler to do that. And then the last one, and that's a report that's on council today, is partnerships with the school board. So we've, through the leadership of Al, we've really opened discussions with both the Catholic and the Peel board on a regular basis, and you'll see a report later on today that really bears fruit to what those discussions are reaping. But that's all the external stuff, but we also are doing internal stuff. And one of the things that I'm really excited about, and it's not going to be overnight, but it's going to happen very soon as we can, is expanding the Service Brampton model. So Michelle Solsky, who leads that team, herself and I have talked about, we really need to meet residents where they are. Why do they always need to come into City Hall to pay taxes, to pay fines? So we're working on a pilot program, which we hope to have up and running soon, where we're going to do it in a couple of our major centers geographically across the center, where we're going to expand that Service Brampton model so residents can come in there after hours, not have to take time off of work to do the things that they need to do. Working with my colleague Jasper Reyna in facilities maintenance to understand the delineation of responsibilities and duties that we have in our community centers, to streamline that and make it more effective so that his staff are able to respond to issues and my staff are able to concentrate on the things that we need to do to keep centers clean and community active. And then we're also working with human resources. We've had a couple of discussions, very good discussions with Fiona and her staff around our part-time hiring, and it's really around awareness. How do we broaden that applicants of pools so that they become the next programmers and the next facility supervisors and the people that are working in our camp. So we're working on a number of initiatives there in human resources that we hope will bear fruitfulness in years to come around hiring. So, but we're not perfect, and we've got things that we know that we need to continue to do, and innovation is, it's something that's really dear to me, because I think innovation happens when you really are around evidence-based and you understand what your community needs, what they're asking for, where that latent demand is. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but we want to be more nimble in terms of the programs we provide. So not just rely on the brochure, but if we see a demand, let's be able to offer a program on demand. We also want to review our assets in all our community centers. How do we use our assets that we have to the fullest and the best capabilities that they can be used to help serve the community? And then, as I spoke about earlier, we want to develop programs that attract a high percentage of all demographics and cultural groups, so age, income, whatever it may be. We want to make sure that people see the community centers in recreation as a place where something is there for them and that they can do. And we'll continue to do that through providing programs on our own, but also exploring partnership opportunities, as you'll see, as you heard earlier, as you'll see later in the reports, and with the private sector, with other public sector providers. My philosophy is, in order to transform and really be able to meet a lot more and broaden that, we don't want to do it all on the backs of our dollars. So let's leverage the dollars of other public sector providers and the private sector in order to do that. And so we will be coming with some performance measures that we need to measure. What you measure gets done. I'm a really big believer in that. So we'll continue to measure our programs and measure what we do. We're going to introduce some dynamic program pricing. So you'll see that in the budget process this year, where traditionally we've done 2% on everything. But when you start to dive into your numbers and you understand supply and demand, there are some areas where we think that we might be able to increase that more than 2%. There are some areas that we want to hold, and there might be some areas that we might reduce pricing. And we think that the mixture of that will help us be more responsive to the community, reviewing our affiliated price programming, and then we will do a comprehensive pricing review next year, and that's really a deep dive, taking a look at the entire spectrum of our programs, drop-ins, memberships, all of that. So these are a couple of next steps. So I'll turn it back over to Rhonda, and I think she's going to wrap up with the future priorities.
Thanks, Derek. So we wanted to give you an idea of where we're headed next in terms of our priorities. So we are aligning our service reviews using the inventory that you saw, but we're aligning it also with another important council priority, which is the corporate asset management plan. So we know tied to that plan there are milestones and timelines that are legislated. So we're working hand in hand with that group to visit departments and go through the process, and we're really looking forward to coming back to report on more outcomes for you using this continuous improvement approach next year. It's an exciting opportunity to be here at the city.
Thank you for your presentation. We're going to go to some comments and questions from Chair or Councillor Willens. Oops, can you put yourself back on the board? Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thanks very much, and Rhonda and Derek for coming forward this, and thank you, Harry. This is a prime example of the silos being removed between the departments. This is excellent, with corporate services working with community services. So this is a good report, and I look forward to seeing the end results.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you for bringing these reports forward. I think this is great that we bring updates every once in a while to see what we're doing. I'm glad to see in the fourth quarter we're going to be having some other updates come So thanks very much. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Sorry, are you done, Councillor Gibson? Yep. Sorry, Councillor Rovieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ola and Derek, for the presentation. Just a question on your review. I believe you're also doing the fitness membership reviews, and specifically on that point, will you be looking at the private sector, what they're charging versus what the city is charging, and try to bring them in line, bring us in line, because I'm hearing from a lot of people who are, they're looking for deals, and they're moving around, and I know that we want to keep a good share of the market in our own facilities, because we have a large investment in several large centers, so we want to make sure that we're competitive, and so because the public out there is very conscious of pricing, and so I hope that will be taken into account. Not that we want to discourage the public sector to, and I know that the city provides better service in our centers, and I've heard that from people who have left and come back at the Wellness Center. They have left and gone to some of these more less costly places, and then they've come back because they find that the service levels are not near the same as the city provides. So, but some people, of course, when they have a tight budget, they have to go for the bargains, and so we have to balance all that. And, hopefully, we can find a happy medium. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Pelletier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for coming and presenting this. It's really exciting to see what we're doing and some of the partnerships that we're exploring, particularly the school boards. It's something that I tried to do very early on, is talk to the school boards and trying to get some of the people that were in the parks that were adjacent to the schools access to the washrooms. And it's something that, essentially I'd like to pass that torch off to you and see if you can and make any headway, because I didn't get that. But they were in support of it, but it was implementing is where they were having a problem with. So I ask you, I know that it's the the broader scheme of this, and looking at what we can use when they are not using their facilities, but I think that's something that will certainly benefit the people that visit our parks. They're always after us to put in washrooms in the parks, and our go-to is the people that live around that that have to put up with the washroom or unfortunately the sight of it and the possibility of smells, and they always turn the what do we put out to we put out a letter to the residents in the area to support or not support a survey, and it's always being turned down, and we respect that, but if there's an opportunity to bring the school boards to provide them with that opportunity, I think that would be fantastic. So take the torch. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you much, Councillor Pelletier. Would you like to move both the presentation and the report, 7.1.1 and 7.2.1? Moved by Councillor Pelletier. All in favor? Carries. We're going to next move on to 7.1.2 and the accompanying report 7.2.2. And I believe, Harry, would you? Actually, okay, so Rhonda, if you can take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Well, similar to the previous presentation, measuring how we're doing is part of our continuous improvement cycle. It's driving innovation across the corporation. And I'm excited today to talk to you about why measuring matters for us, where we are today, and where we're headed, and to share just a sample of metrics to help you imagine the possibilities in the future. So why measuring matters for organizations can be summed up in these two powerful quotations. What gets measured gets done, and not everything that counts can be measured. Not everything that can be measured counts. These two facts spark real excitement for Brampton because of this fundamental transformational change to the way we're doing business today. When it comes to metrics, we are bucking tradition. We are future ready, taking this opportunity to move forward throughout the organization as one team, focusing on impacts, adjusting and taking action as we go so that we can even make more of an impact on the members of our community. So the question is, how are we doing as a municipality? Well, we have so much data here. Staff are very passionate about their operational measures, but we have found that there are varying levels of expertise and ways of sharing it. We know a lot about our individual operations, but we're not as clear when it comes to our organization or even as a community. So if you think about it, we found that the metrics look a lot like this, where everything is important, which means really that nothing stands out in order for us to take appropriate action to improve. So there's so many different measures. They all mean different things to different people. We're really rich in data, but sometimes poor in information. So the big question is, what are we going to do about it? Well, we're developing a standardized corporate-wide approach for the City of Brampton to collect, measure, monitor, and report not only on our key performance metrics, but progress against our game changers and strategic plan outcomes. As part of city transformation, this initiative aligns with other good government foundational elements, such as the long-term financial master plan, that corporate asset management plan I mentioned earlier, the people advantage. It will drive more integrated business decisions and build a culture of high performance across the organization. So we're at the baseline stage right now, and we will look to other high-performing organizations, not just in the public sector. We want to look to leaders in private industry. We're going to learn and leapfrog them. The City of Brampton wants to be the best. That means driving performance, measuring progress, achieving results, and celebrating our successes, and we will lead the way. And we're going to do that by asking ourselves 3 simple questions about our measures. So what? In other words, what is that measure telling us? Who cares? Who's the audience? The community, the corporation, the operation, the employee? And most importantly, what are we going to do about it? If we don't do anything about it, it doesn't matter. So measuring fewer things will actually tell us more. It's going to start to change the conversations, not only amongst and across these audiences and around this room. As an example, if the community is concerned about youth employment, other than the city hiring more youth, which is certainly a viable option, what else can the city do? Well, with ears to the ground in the community, it can seize opportunities to connect local businesses with community groups and support youth employment and other programs. So that's just one example. So how are we going to do this? This is the plan. It's the initial corporate performance measurement will be completed in 4 phases. The first one is where we're at today, current state data gathering and assessment, which is complete as of this report and presentation. Phase 2 consists of staff training, doing the best of best industry research so that we can set our own performance targets by Q4. And some of these will be stretch goals for the city, but that's okay. That gives us a place to stretch to. Phase 3 will deliver a public-facing dashboard prototype early in 2018. And again, we're kind of taking the Microsoft approach here where version 1.0 without being perfect is okay. We will adjust it as we go. And finally, phase 4 is going to provide us with an ongoing support model across all departments. So the point of this slide is really continuous improvement across the bottom. It's never static. This is actually a 2 to 3 year journey that we're embarking on, starting with these phases so that we can continuously improve and build that high performance culture. What will also result here is delivering consistent corporate and operating performance reporting on a semi-annual basis with an annual review of our measures to make sure that we're always measuring the right things and always moving forward, all part of that continuous improvement journey. So where we're at right now in terms of the next step is phase 2 kicks off tomorrow, as a matter of fact, with corporate-wide staff workshops launching. The resulting corporate performance measures and targets will be brought back to council and reported on as part of this year's budget process. So what you're going to look at right now is a cross-section of 25 to 40 sample community measures and corporate and operational measures that we collected through this, the first phase. The intent here is to provide a sample snapshot of the city. It's not to provide an exhaustive list of everything. It's giving us a general sense of how Brampton is performing based on its unique goals, objectives as a community and as an organization. So again, imagine changing the conversation from this to something that looks more like this. Now again, we just opted to present a sample to you using graphics instead of a table. It's just a sample. The prototype performance dashboard that we will be working on and presenting next year will be unique to Brampton. It will leapfrog others and truly reflect our transformation as a future-ready organization with a high-performance culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Chair. Rhonda, this is great. I'd love to see reports like this. I just have a couple of questions.
Okay.
There's a lot of buzzwords on here. When a resident calls in, they don't worry about lead practices, target setting, dashboard prototypes, sustainability stewardship. What they worry about is getting an answer as quickly as we can. Do we have a measurement that shows that we've been continuously improving over the past 3 years?
Through the chair, we don't have a single point of access right now for assessing our improvement. We have varying measures that are spread out throughout the departments. So the purpose of this initiative is to help bring it together in a consistent way with a consistent scheduling and to make sure that we're measuring the right things and we're sharing that right information. So we are able to provide council and members of the public with progress updates and to show progress against the strategic plan, for instance. It's manual at the moment and it's a laborious process, so we're looking to make it easier for everyone involved. And as you indicated, that you want it to have that at-a-glance availability and really interactive and available at somebody's fingertips. We're envisioning down the road it'll be online and interactive on a mobile phone if somebody wants to see what's going on.
Okay, so just from your standpoint, real simple measurement, seconds to pick up for a telephone call. Are we improving there?
Through the chair, yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, we have. So there's an area. So we have varying. I mentioned earlier skill levels and I'll say sophistication in terms of our measures. So in the contact center, we're following sort of industry standard measures there. So our target is to answer 80% of the calls in 30 seconds or less, and we are typically above that. Last year, we're looking at resolved at first contact, but there is a measure available for that.
So 30 seconds is 4 rings, roughly?
Yeah, I mean, nobody really counts in rings anymore, but yes,
okay.
It's sort of acceptable, 3 to 4.
Okay, as long as we're improving,
yes.
And as long as we're setting our goals and objectives higher than industry standards, that's what I want to see.
Okay, all right,
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bohm. Seeing no other speakers, would you like to move the presentation and the report? All in favor? That carries. 7.2.3, 7.2.4, 7.2.5 are in consent. We have report 7.2.6 from Treasurer Mr. Sutton on the long-term financial master plan. Oh, so there's no presentation. If there's any questions, feel free. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to refer this report until all members of council can be in attendance. This is, there's some tools being suggested being put in the toolbox that I think warrant all members of council to be here. They are a shift from, particularly around the legacy funds and how council might be agreeable to using those for legacy projects that might come forward. I understand why staff would like to see that council make a decision sooner rather than later on how we might invest those funds. But right now we have 6 members or 7 members sitting around this table. The mayor is not here. I know we had a workshop where we talked about some exciting opportunities for Brampton. So I would like to refer this. We have a council meeting on July the 5th, I believe. The mayor will, I'm assuming, be at that meeting. And so, if members of council want to offer some comments on that, speaking specifically to the Legacy Fund, I'd like to see a little bit more parameters built around that, what the criteria might be for how we could invest that money differently and what the impact could be on the overall budget moving forward. So I'm moving referral to the July 5th council meeting. But I don't want to cut off debate or comments that might be offered today on that.
So, Councillor Bowman?
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. I'll support the referral. I also had the same question. I've got another couple of questions as well, but I can speak to finance offline if this is being referred, and by the time it comes back, perhaps my questions can be answered too. Thank you.
So, seeing as there are no other speakers, there's a referral motion to move 7.2.6 to the July 5th City Council meeting, moved by Councillor Moore, and I believe... Oh, you want to go for it? Okay, one second. So all in favor of the referral motion? That carries. 7.2.7 was in consent. 7.2.8 is a report from Lowell Reuben Vaughn regarding 2017 AMO Annual Conference. There's no presentation. Is there any questions for Lowell? Any questions? No questions. Can somebody want to move the report? Councillor Willens, all in favor? That carries. 7.3 was other new business. So we have the taxi cab advisory minutes, and
my apologies on 728. I'm just asking for if it's the will of committee, if it's okay for Lowell just to come forward and give a briefing on this. I think it'd be good for the public, and the importance of this is I think good for the city of Brampton, if that's okay. If not, then
so since we did take a vote, we'd have to reopen it. I think we need 2/3. So all in favor of reopening 7.2.8? That carries.
And thank you, and through you, Chair, to the committee. I'm not going to go through the report. I think it's there for your consideration. I will just highlight maybe a couple things. The first is I just want to ensure council, for those, especially the first-time councillors who haven't participated in AMO, there is a lot of work that goes into preparing for AMO and then during the actual AMO conference. So as staff, we are prepared to work with you between now and August 13th and to the 16th to ensure that you feel very comfortable with the issues that we're proposing, as well as with ever meetings that we do secure, that you're prepared well in advance to articulate the city's positions. The issues that we did provide are connected to our strategic priorities, and in particular the game changers. So that shouldn't be of any surprises. I would have also been remiss if I didn't put in additional issues, including regional representation. I think that's clearly been articulated as a priority of this council. And I also included a issue that was presented at the Planning Committee in regards to secondary units. So we're going to be working over the next week to flesh out those as we prepare our formal submissions. The next thing, one of the other things that I did here, and I want to again reassure council, is working with the region of Peel. I understand that the region is going to be making a series of requests, and they're actually going to be discussing them tomorrow at the Government Relations Committee. It's a very well written report that highlights a number of their reports. So I recognize that some of you will have regional delegations to attend as well as city delegations to attend. So next Monday I'm actually meeting with my counterparts there to ensure that we can start that coordination. While we understand that meetings are important with the ministers, parliamentary assistants, it's also important for you to participate in the sessions. We want to make sure that you have effective use of your time so you can attend sessions, keynote speakers, various concurrent plenary sessions, and also networking with your colleagues from around the province. That is something that we've heard when I was with the region, and it's something that I've heard now. So that working with the region, we will be doing that. And really the next step is to formally submit our delegation requests, and working with the clerks leading into August and the conference, hopefully we'll be able to plan a workshop. So again, that will be, hopefully a week or maybe a little bit less before the conference, just to go over all the issues, the meeting materials. I'm not going to call them speaking notes, but key messages that councillors may wish to leave with the minister, and an opportunity for you to ask any questions. So we really will have this as kind of like a planning session, so we can kind of be strategically prepared for whoever goes to whichever meetings. So, and we will be also meeting, making requests to meet with the opposition parties, so Horvath as well as Patrick Brown. So we will be making those delegation requests as well.
Thank you, Lowell. If I still have the floor, Councillor Chair Dillon, thank you very much. And I just wanted to stress the importance of not only this meeting with the officials at AMO. I know it's a short, but it's a good opportunity to get our voice heard. I don't know. I think it's Councillor Moore that's on growth management at the region, and I know I haven't read the report, and I'm not able to attend. I'm not on the Growth Management Committee and not able to attend, but I would encourage any other members that could attend to do so, to listen. And I'm glad to hear that there's a workshop that will be happening. I wanted to put this item and any future updates on every meeting that Council has up until AMO, and just to keep the public notified of what we're doing, and if there isn't an update, then maybe just yet another briefing and an opportunity for councillors and the public to ask questions. And I was wondering if that would be okay with staff, the clerk's office, and members of committee.
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, as a suggestion, maybe through the GR briefing matter, so that'll be appearing on every council meeting between now and I guess until July. So we'll make sure that an update is included in those, and then I'm happy to answer any questions from committee.
Okay, and it's not just, I'm not asking for every council. I know there's only one left before AMO, I believe, but I'm also asking for planning meetings where it pertains to planning issues with the City of Brampton, just to keep that awareness going. I strongly suggest that we do that, and if that's okay, I hope that all committee members support that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Pleshy. Councillor Sprovier.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ruben, for the information. Just a question, and I don't know whether you're familiar with dealing with the ministers in the past when you were at the region, but if they're approached at AMO and asked about how come you haven't responded on our governance issue? We're waiting for council to send several resolutions, and we haven't had any response from you. At the region, we have the same problem with the corridor, and then we have the other issue with fluoridation. We sent a resolution in February, and we still haven't heard nothing from the ministers. Will they give an opportunity to discuss these matters at AMO, or will they just simply say, well, we'll respond when we can, or when we have time, or?
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, I can't speak to Flora, but I know on regional representation that is one of the issues that we are going to be raising. So we're going to be making a case there in terms of here's what the City of Brampton has been doing and how we've been working through the process for X number of years. I believe that this was an issue raised last year as well. And we really need to express the urgency on this because this term of council, from getting ready for the 2018 election is coming up. So that will be an appropriate opportunity to express to the Minister of Municipal Affairs about the urgent need to get this addressed expeditiously.
And what are you expecting? Any positive, any kind of, what are you expecting? Will they just brush you off and brush it and just say, well, you just have to wait, or do you expect them to actually take a seriously look at it in a serious manner?
If I can respond, I don't want to speculate going into those meetings, but again, staff has heard council, and we're going to be making as strong of an argument as we can to the minister if that meeting is accepted in August.
Good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lowell. I just have, on the issue of the secondary suites, you're suggesting municipal affairs. There's more aspects to it than just their as of right for second suites. There's the issue of access, and I'm not sure that would be covered by municipal affairs. Oh, you're shaking your head, yes. Okay, because I would have thought it was the attorney. No, okay. So the answer to the question, just look across the table. Joe has all the answers. And the other is the issue around taxation. And I know that, with market value assessment and, the agency that looks after all of that is MPAC. But somehow the message needs to get through that the way second suites are taxed it's not relevant. It is not netting the kind of assessment revenue that municipalities need in order to provide the services and programs that extra population brings into the city. So I don't know where we have that conversation. MPAC seemed to be this agency that's out there that, I'm not sure what road we use to get through to them so that they hear the message loud and clear.
Through you, maybe I can add one delegation to Minister of Finance on the as it relates to the taxation secondary.
Because that really is, if we had the revenue to deal with some of the issues and the complexities that basement apartments and second units cause for the city, it would be less of an issue. So I put that out there. The other was, and I know that, we're kind of hands-off on the university location, but would it hurt for us to try to talk to someone about Brampton's willingness to be not just at the table, but our desire to have a location that we can buy into, that the decision of where it's located isn't purely there. And I know there's conversations taking place, and we're on the outside making a little bit of noise. But again, I'll leave that with you. There's only so much time. I know from being at AMO last year, you needed a pair of running shoes, not a pair of sandals, to get to from one room to the next. It's like speed dating, but we do want to have the most impact while we're there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just further to note, you have under Transportation, Minister Del Duca, 4 items: mobility hubs, two-way all-day go, high-speed rail, and GTA West Corridor. To me, all 4 of those items are 4 separate meetings. Are we cramming all 4 into one?
The short answer through you, Chair, is yes. Saying that if you look at the regional, their delegations, they're doing the GTA West Corridor. So again, we may just be focusing on 3 out of the 4, and there might be an opportunity for us to leverage the region's meeting request for the GTA West Corridor. On the high-speed rail, again, that was a recently discussed item, so that would probably be something that we want to mention in terms of the importance for at least the city to be engaged in future conversations. That's why I envision really focusing on mobility hubs, perhaps the light rail transit, as well as the two-way all-day go, those are the 2 core priorities for this council. So they're 15-minute meetings. And you raise an interesting point. It's not just about these 15 minutes. It's all the minutes and time that happens after those meetings. And I think the follow-up work that staff did from the 2016 AMO conference this is just a start of a conversation, or in some cases a continuation of a conversation. So
absolutely. And just before Harry, I know Harry's got his hand up, Mr. Chair, but I'd like to stress that after AMO, and you did a good report from what I recall coming back about the work that we had continued to do afterwards, and I just request that same thing come forward. And then finally, with respect, Harry, I'd like to, I don't know if now's the time to discuss, but in terms of two-way all-day go in the GTA West Corridor, I'd really like to be a part of that, but not from a regional standpoint, from the City of Brampton standpoint. And that's what I'd like to put forward, and if that's by way of any future meetings that we start discussing this, or at a workshop or something like that, I'd really like to be a part of that. First of all, GTA West Corridor, because it's mainly in Councillor Willens and I ward. It's actually only it comes down in Sproviers Ward 2 in the east. But then the two-way all-day go, and specifically Mount Pleasant and the connections throughout Brampton. So if that's a discussion that we can have in the future, then I thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just to maybe address one point, is we do, as part of our next steps, we are going to be targeting a post-conference report. Right now I'm targeting September 20th, but again, just depending on how timing is, if we can get that to council's hands earlier, then we'll do our best to accommodate that. That's a good point.
Mr. Slang.
Just thank you, Chair. Just to support Lowell's comment, it isn't just the meeting. In fact, I'm having some meetings with Deputy Minister of MTO prior to AMO to talk about some of these. So it's leading up to and after that makes us successful here, like you were last year.
Sorry, thank you so much. Are you done?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is it possible to get a more detailed, and maybe at the post-council report, of what, how do I word this? Last year, some of the things that we're going to be delegating on this year, we delegated on last year. And I'd like to know what they've done about those things. For instance, the governance thing. Has there been anything at all done on it? We did I think it was Councillor Miles who did the presentation on governance and did a tremendous job on it, as I recall. But has anything happened? And all those other ones that we had, has anything actually happened? Some have. I know some have. And I'm not trying to downplay us going there, because I think it was really important. I mean, every one of the ones that I went to, I felt like we were listened to, except for one. There was one I felt like we got the brush off, but the rest of them I thought we were really listened to. But what did they actually? What was the work done afterwards by the province or the ministers or whoever we were meeting with at the time? Is that possible to get that before we go?
Through you, Chair. The short answer is yes. A couple months ago, I think actually in February, we presented kind of an update since 2016 in terms of the progress. But again, in terms of the regular reporting, things just don't stop in February. They continue to go. Again, in advocacy, sometimes it's a longer marathon, not just a sprint, especially on these big public policy decisions with big financial dollars. Saying that, I would be happy to provide an update between now and AMO in terms of what is the progress, because that might be some good information that could be articulated to any of these.
I think it is because, particularly on the governance thing, I mean, is there really a point in making the same presentation to the same person on the governance thing? I think it's important that we talk about it, but we might want to say, this is what we presented to you a year ago. We don't feel like anything's been accomplished. And, at the same time, when we're meeting with the opposition, we take that exact same information. This is one of the things that I've said, and I know we talked about it at the region, at governance at the region, governance committee at the region, is that, it's very important coming up now to talk to the opposition, and we need to try to get some commitments from the opposition coming up to this election on certain things. And if we can get those commitments that things are going to be done, it may go a long way, or it may not. I don't know. Okay, that'd be great. I mean, if you're going to do a post report for council, that may be the time we can talk about that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
So seeing there's no other questions, would somebody like to move the report? Councillor Gibson. All in favor? That carries. We next move on to 7.3.1, the minutes of the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee. And I request Joe Petrai if he can give us an update on what's going on. It's been a pretty hot topic lately, and I think it'd be beneficial for those watching and council to know what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, I want to again commend both the chair and vice chairs as well as the participants of TAC. While I don't have the rich history many of the others do with respect to TAC and some of the issues it's been facing over the last several years, I was told by many that once the chair set the context for that meeting, as well as the actual framework for how we were going to have discussions in a very collaborative way, it was one of the most successful and productive meetings that TAC has had. We agreed that given the dynamic changes that happen on a regular basis with that industry, that we needed to look at reassessing how we were going to approach dealing with some of the issues, and we were going to do it in a phased way. And phase one was looking at some of the enhancements and adjustments we can make to the bylaw as it pertains to the taxi cab industry. We had great dialogue. We assessed some of the information that was pulled together from staff for TAC, as well as the stakeholder feedback, and we came up with some excellent items that we will be putting forward into a revised proposed bylaw coming this September. The next phase was looking at the Uber type higher perspective, and that being, we still need to do a lot more work in this area, and we had planned to hold a workshop in the middle of the summer to help start to frame what that work plan and approach was going to be in terms of collecting that information, and then going to TAC in September to present that work plan in terms of an approach to collect the right information, to provide that same type of input on how we were going to change the bylaw to support that aspect of the industry. And there was unanimous support for that dialogue to continue, and we will be doing that moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Petari. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Yesterday, Councillor Gibson, Willens, and myself had a meeting with some representatives from Teamsters who are representing the taxi industry here in Brampton. And they were, we had some conversations about an injunction against Uber to operating in the city of Brampton. My concern about it is that it would not be enforceable, so I'm not sure how that would unfold. But of greater concern is that we passed a motion last year, and sorry I don't have a copy of it in front of me, is maybe getting a report card on that. Like, we passed a motion directed at the Uber industry, essentially asking them to not operate within the city of Brampton until such time as we had a bylaw amendment. I don't know whether they have cooperated with that, whether there's been an increase in Uber use and number of drivers in the municipality. So my concern is that we pass a motion that's just purely political in nature, but it really doesn't translate into any meaningful action or difference to the industry. I put that comment out there, so because if we're going to contemplate another motion around this table that speaks to an injunction, it needs to have some teeth in it and something that we can reasonably enforce, and that is not just political. Because to be honest, I think that's what the last one was. The other information that was shared with us yesterday was that there's been some charges laid in the city of Brampton against Uber. If we could, sorry?
We were told it was a secret.
We were told it was a secret. The charges were laid. I don't know how true that is, but if it's possible to report back, I know there's the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee, but I do think that all members of council need to be armed with that information. If charges have been laid, if we've been successful in the courts, what have those charges been? What has the revenue been from those charges? So. And the other is that in Mississauga, I understand, starting July the 1st, Uber will be paying the city of Mississauga the equivalent of what the industry has paid in licensing fees and other fees. So, and I don't know the details on that, how they're implementing it, when they started down this road of trying to get revenue from the Uber industry. So if they're starting it in Mississauga in July, I don't know whether that action is contrary to an injunction or how those two pieces might work. I know I'm doing a lot of talking about stuff that came from the meeting yesterday, but it does get you thinking about what are we moving swiftly enough to address the issue of Uber in the community? Are we getting the kind of revenue that we can and should be entitled to? And what information is council armed with that maybe some have information on that others don't? So there's no real question in all of that.
Thank you.
You'll take it under advisement. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Councillor Gibson?
No.
Yeah.
Joe's
Maybe
gonna-
if I ask a question, and then
sorry.
then
Are
he
you
can
on-
respond to both of us, if you don't mind.
Sorry. Hold on one second.
Want to wait till I ask Joe, and then?
Okay, so are you sorry? You were going to respond to Councillor Moore?
Yeah, but he's going to wait until Councillor
all right.
Gibson, and he's
Can you
going to
get back on the board,
and he's
please?
going to speak to
Yes,
both of us.
Sorry about that. I took you off the board. There we go.
And stop me if this isn't in camera item, but we were told yesterday that the industry thinks the city of Brampton is not helping them, not doing anything. Yet, the representatives told us that the mayor's office told them that there were charges, but you couldn't tell anybody because it was a secret. So, is it a secret? And has there been charges? Because if there has been, this is something that we should know about, not just the mayor's office, and the industry should know about, because that shows that we are supporting the taxi cab industry. But they said they weren't allowed to tell the industry, which I find stupid, because if there's charges laid and fines put out there, then I don't think we can keep that a secret. I don't think the courts can keep that a secret. So help us understand what information that they have been given. Thank you.
So, through the chair, since the enactment of the revised bylaw, I believe to date, 7 charges have been laid, and this was presented at tax, so as far as I'm concerned, it is public knowledge. A couple of those matters are proceeding to court. The information in relation to those charges at this time cannot be shared, but the fact is 7 charges have been laid to date. It is difficult to lay those charges and do the types of investigations to be able to lay those charges, given the rideshare industry in and of itself is difficult to quote-unquote police from that perspective. But we are moving forward with the resources we have to attempt to do something about it where we can. And that information, if there's any additional information, I'm happy to that we can share. We will bring it forward and share it with council from that perspective. And we have been working closely with, again, all participants and stakeholders who've wanted to participate to date in that process. Again, the Mississauga model, it is a pilot, and there's a lot of interest to see, in fact, what is going to be the outcome of that pilot before we start making decisions potentially as to what it means for Brampton. It's not to say we're going to stop and wait, but we need to be cognizant of some of the things happening in other jurisdictions and see what that means for us in terms of making those enhancements to our bylaw as it pertains to ride sharing, not just Uber, but there are other ride sharing aspects we need to consider.
Okay, so that's good news. It's not a secret. The 7 charges have been laid. Joe, if we send you the information of the 2 representatives that asked to meet with us yesterday, could you or somebody from staff send them an email just saying that here's the information, and that you can share that with the industry, so the industry would know, and then one of them was, I think he was the head of the union. They could share that with the industry, and the industry would know that we have been taking some action, because they've told us that the industry feels we haven't. So if it was shared with the committee, then the committee hasn't shared it with their industry yet. I think that's important because, particularly on the safety issue of all this, we told them that's what council's concern was. When we had discussion around here, it was all about the safety. They had other concerns, but safety of the whole industry, whether it be Uber, whether it be taxi cab industry, is our greatest concern. It's about protecting the public and the whole thing. So Councilor Morrow or I will send you that information. I'm not sure, Councilor Moore, if you have it in your contacts now or not, but and if you could do that'd be very helpful, I think.
Through the chair, we will do that.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if it's from their perspective, if it's 4 or 7 charges, that from their perspective is given the volume of potential Uber activity is not doing anything or not, but whatever we have, we will share and respond.
Interesting enough, they knew there were 7. There was information that we didn't know, that they knew that there were 7 charges, but they were told they weren't allowed to tell anybody. And I said, well, then the person that told you that shouldn't have told you. So, and now you're telling us. And now we're doing it publicly, which is where it probably should have been in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gibson. Councilor Pelletier.
Thank you, Chair Dillon. Wow, there's a whole slew of he said, she said stuff going on. The report, though, of the 7 charges were in the Tax Advisory Committee. It was advised, you advised them of the 7 charges, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. It's 7 charges.
Is there a dollar figure to those 7 charges?
There likely is. I don't have it in front of me. I can report back to you with that.
Okay. Speaking of reporting back, when Uber had first come here and we had, this side of the chambers, I believe, was packed with taxi drivers, I had asked at that meeting that whether we whether we put licensing on Uber or decrease licensing for taxi for something to be brought back to council. Also at that time I asked if there was any other municipalities that were doing something for that to be brought to our attention. Now to hear, and actually I heard this a couple months ago that Mississauga was doing, I didn't know it was a pilot project, but in their report to their council, there's some major dollars that are coming in by way of Uber if this is going through. So I think this is the first time that we've actually talked about Mississauga, what they're doing here. And like you said, I know we're not going to stop and wait and see, but I think that it would be good to have some kind of report based on the work that they had already done to bring that to council. And if we need to start our own pilot program, then council can make that decision, or implement. Council can make that decision. The advisory committee minutes, there are motions in here by way of us approving the minutes. We're not asking for anything to be implemented, though, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. What we would do as staff is to take that direction from TAC, bring it forward to council as in September as part of a revised bylaw for your consideration.
Okay. So since I asked those questions back in, I think it was cold outside, so it must have been winter. Do you need that in a form of a motion?
Through the chair, I don't believe so. I will work with staff to dig that up, and if we can't find it, we will definitely follow up with you to include it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just a quick comment as the chair of the TAC committee. It was a very productive meeting, and I appreciate all the hard work you and staff have put into it. So, as I said there, 5 minutes that we had towards the end was one of the most productive 5 minutes we've had up to date, and it's a very sensitive issues because you're dealing with people's livelihoods. But I also want to thank the members; they were pretty patient as well. So, the taxi cab advisory committee minutes. Does anybody want to move those? Councillor Pelletier, all in favor? So we are at 7.3.2 was deferred till July 5th. 7.4 is no correspondence. I don't believe there's any correspondence. Councillor question period. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none. We are almost at 12 o'clock, and if it's the will of the committee, we can take lunch for 1 hour? Yes. Okay. So we have a question. Councillor Bowman.
With council's indulgence, we have all of economic development sitting here. We have 2 reports to receive in economic development.
Yeah.
And if we can carry those before lunch, then everybody can get back to work right after lunch.
So do you want to come here?
Sure, yeah. Well, I can do it from here.
Yeah, so pass the chair on to you.
Thank you very much. In economic development and culture section, we've already taken care of 8.1.1. We have 2 reports, 8.2.1, a report from Kelly Stahl, Senior Manager, Cultural Services, regarding the 2017 Women's and Under 14 Girls Canadian Softball Championships. There is a report there. Is there any questions on the report or the recommendations therein? Seeing none, Councillor Pelletier would like to move that. All in favor? That passes. Thank you. And 8.2.2, Kelly was busy. It's another report from Kelly regarding the Arts Walk of Fame. And I believe we'll be going in camera about the Arts Walk of Fame later. So is there any questions about this part of the report right now? Seeing none, Councillor Willens, would you like to move it? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. We took care of 8.2.3 with the delegation. We have no new business. We have no correspondence. Councillor question period. Seeing none, that takes care of economic development. Thank you very much for your indulgence and letting these people get back I do recommend we break right now. We're
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. We'd like to come back. 12:30.
No, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock? All in favor of 1 o'clock? That passes. 1 o'clock, we will be back. Thank you. 1:40.